Mr. Guerra. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you want to lead our county as our chief executive.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We have a little bit of an echo. Can everybody hear me back there? Well, once again, good evening. First and foremost, thank you to the Northern Cameron County Democrats for putting this event together. My name is Steve Guerra, and I'm a candidate for Cameron County Judge. I am, most importantly, a husband. Glad to have my wife, Crystal, accompany me here tonight. A father of 3 girls, so we were running a little bit late because we had to find someone brave enough to take care of all 3 on short notice, but we got it done. Also, a resident of Brownsville, local businessman, and a humble public servant. I will tell you a little bit about my public service. Most recently, at the beginning of my public service career, I was appointed by the City Commission in Brownsville to the Greater Brownsville Census Corporation, which is the Type A economic development arm for the city, as well as I serve on various other boards, including Rioplex, which goes out and tries to market the entire region, really, throughout the United States. And my most important and longest standing role has been commissioner at the Port of Brownsville. I was elected there, where I served for the last 4 years as chairman of the board. The Port of Brownsville, the largest economic engine in the region, with over $20 billion in investments, good paying jobs. And I think that experience that I bring from the Port of Brownsville to county as a whole, I hope to be given that opportunity to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Trevino, the same question. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you want to lead our county as the chief executive, given that you've served in this position since 2016.
Good evening, Harlingen, Northern Cameron County Democrats. Thank you for hosting this forum and giving us the opportunity to speak to each and every one of you and those of you that are watching via stream. I want to thank my opponent, Mr. Guerra, for being here this evening. I have the utmost privilege and pleasure of having served as your county judge for the last 9.5 years. I was born and raised in Brownsville, graduated from high school way back in 1983, attended St. Mary's University getting a degree with honors in international relations. I knew as a young child I wanted to become a lawyer, thanks to the guidance. When she told me that you could grow up and get paid to argue, I knew what my career goal was going to be. I was in such a hurry. I graduated from college in 3 years and was fortunate enough to attend the University of Texas School of Law. If there's any Aggies in the room, I am bipartisan very much, okay? I left Brownsville and the Valley with the sole intention of staying in San Antonio. I love San Antonio. It's a great city. But as I kept staying over the exact same thing, this brain drain, which has been going on for decades and generations, was going to continue to affect us. So I had a epiphany, if you will, and I decided to come back home. And I'm so glad that I did. I've got 3 children. They're much older than Mr. Guerra's. I don't have to find babysitters for them. But they're my pride and joy. I want to recognize my wife, Erika, who's in the crowd with me. She's been with me the last couple of campaigns, and she has not missed an event with me. Matter of fact, she gets upset if I go by myself because she thinks she's a much better campaign manager than I am politician. It's very, very important that you look at the records of the 2 candidates for Cameron County Judge. Quickly, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the fact of what we've done over the last several years. We've lowered the tax rate for the last 3 years. We've instituted a county-wide compensation plan. We've invested in a law enforcement officer. We've invested in infrastructure. We've got commitments to build the second causeway and a new highway. I just came from a meeting with individuals and families that were affected with the storm over the weekend. Mother Nature has a way of having her own plan. We were not expecting any rain Saturday morning.
Thank you, sir. Time's up.
I'm sorry. I want to continue to serve in the Cameron County Deputy.
Thank you, sir. We've got further issues, beginning with this one. Starting with you, Judge Trevino. Question 2. The Corpus Christi water crisis has placed a renewed focus on public-private partnerships. If elected, how would you navigate tax relief and usage rights for big businesses like oil and gas and SpaceX?
Well, I have quite a bit of experience dealing with that. Back when I was mayor of Brownsville 20 years ago, we constructed, and began operation of the Southmost Regional Water Authority. That was the first brackish groundwater plant to be developed here in South Texas. Brownsville being the last spot, actually the whole valley, but in particular in Brownsville, we needed to come and find alternatives. Just recently, a private company is looking into initiating a desalination plant. Back when I was mayor 20 years ago, we looked at a desal plant, but the whole concern was it's too expensive. It's too expensive. We were looking at Tampa as an example of how it works. Even to this day, guess what? If we don't work now, it's not going to get any cheaper. We have to have various options. I've also spoken to different other groups north of us who would have access to pure, cleaner groundwater, not brackish groundwater like we have here in the valley. The closer you are to the Gulf of Mexico, the more saltier, the dirtier the water is going to be, the more expensive it's going to be to clean up. So we have to deal not just with the issue of the water, but we also have to deal with the discharge of the brine dealing with that. Cameron County is growing by leaps and bounds. These industrial companies that have come over the last several years have invested billions of dollars, and obviously, are you going to be telling us where we are?
Yeah, that's kind of right.
All right. And we need to be mindful of that. The industrial users, we need to avoid what happened in Corpus Christi. They knew the problem was coming and they didn't address it quickly enough. That's why we're looking at multifaceted approaches. There's not a one-size-fits-all. We have to have many different options in order to address the water and the energy issue.
Thank you. The same question to you, Mr. Guerra. Given, how would you navigate tax relief and usage rights for big businesses like oil and gas and SpaceX? Just tip it back, not towards the student. Yeah.
All right. Goodness gracious. So I'm very familiar.
Just take a step back.
Maybe if I move away a little bit?
Lower the volume.
Okay, I'll maybe get my time.
No. Question.
So I'm very familiar with a lot of issues. So when I talk about when I was re-elected in 2022, I was as the service chairman of the board of Port of Brownsville. And their 2-year terms, they asked me to continue serving in 2024. And I took on that role. I accepted that role, but I told them if we were going to be looking specifically at infrastructure, and we were going to really take a proactive approach to it instead of a reactive approach to it. So I know that there's these projects when they come in, quite frankly, I think for a long time, and this is no blame on anyone, we didn't have the necessary infrastructure in place for these projects. So I'm happy to tell you that in the last 6 months, we've secured 2 million acre feet of water at the Port of Brownsville to make sure that we have the necessary water, the necessary power, and the necessary mitigation land available for some of these projects coming in. I think it's very important to look at different options. I think it's important to keep an open mind. I also think it's very important to look at different options as far as how funding goes. Looking at public-private partnerships. I don't believe in taking unnecessary risk with your tax dollars. So for me, it's important to go out, find these companies, come invest in South Texas, take the risk financially, but also bring the know-how with them. That way we can be prepared for these projects, continue moving forward with these projects coming to invest in South Texas.
And would you like to respond or no? You're ready for the next question.
The only thing that I would reiterate is the fact that we're already working on numerous different water issues, both locally from the county level and also on the regional and water. Cameron County is involved in several watershed and water studies with regards to NADMAC and also regional with the Lower Rio Grande Valley development. This is stuff that we're already working on, that I'm working with the other county judges on. I don't have to take on any on-the-job training. I already know what needs to be done. I just need to make sure that everybody's pushing and pulling in the right direction.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra, would you like to respond? What would you do different as Cameron County Judge if you were elected further than what Judge Trevino is doing?
What would I do different than what he's doing right now?
With regards to water rights.
So I would bring everybody together and look at these options. I think also regionalization, looking at economies of scale, actually investments coming in, and people coming to invest. When you look at these different areas and everybody's in their own silo, I think it's important to have a leadership in place that's going to come in, bring everybody together, coordinate with everybody, and work as a region.
Thank you. The next question beginning with Judge Trevino. Question 3. Many jurisdictions have seen groundswell efforts to ban data centers and other projects from being built there. Would you support such a ban in Cameron County?
Well, you have to understand that county government is only authorized to do that which the state has given us the authority and power to do. With that said, however, we have passed a resolution, and we've been looking at other areas of the state and of the country that are dealing with data center situations. We all know that oftentimes progress comes whether we're ready for it or not. We want to make sure, and I know that particular issue has been a major concern here in Arlington. We need to make sure that any data center, first of all, is that the impact of the water and the energy on the local user and on the community as a whole need to be addressed before the project becomes south of Randy. We would only support a closed-dam water system, basically meaning that an unending use like being contemplated in Harlingen with the water works, which I know is kind of on pause right now. But a closed-loop system means that water would continue to be, so it would minimize the impact on the local community. With regards to the energy situation, we need to make sure that ERCOT and the grid can sustain the needs of the particular project. Data centers require and consume a lot of energy, and that also needs to be addressed in conjunction with the water. The one thing that isn't commensurate is that while these data centers are $1 billion in investment, they don't have the same number of jobs, several hundred, but these investments of $1 billion, if done correctly, would obviously help the local property rate and allow the revenue, hopefully in a system where it doesn't impact and actually enhance it. But we need to make sure that it's done right, with caution, with precaution, and with understanding, and clear transparency to everybody involved, especially the community.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra, same question. Many jurisdictions have seen groundswell efforts to ban data centers. Would you support such a ban in Cameron County if you were elected judge?
So, for far too long, we've been considered one of the poorest communities, one of the poorest areas in the United States. And that's a difficult job that we have to put that on the balance. Really look at projects that are coming. Like I said, the Port of Brownsville is where these projects have come. It's where we've worked on these projects day in and day out, and where we've secured the biggest investments over the past 10 years, really. Again, so we have to put it on the balance. I agree that the data centers in particular are very, very energy and water intensive. It puts a very, very big strain on the infrastructure, and infrastructure that we're still not prepared for. So, quite frankly, as far as data centers go, I don't believe that they bring enough jobs to the area. That's one of the balances of how we take that stigma of getting those high-paying jobs for our people. So I can't say that we can just ban them. I can tell you that I am not in favor in them for any data center in Cameron County whatsoever.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause, please. We will be now moving on to audience questions. We'll start with Mr. Guerra. This one is a question from Rock James. On day one, what litigation or action will each one of you do? Start by giving access to, what litigation or action will each one of you do to start giving citizens more freedom to access Boca Chica Beach? And will you be able to object to Elon Musk's plans?
Well, day one, there's a number of things that I want to do. And I really break it up into a 90-day plan that's given the opportunity to serve you as your county judge. And day 1 to 30 is really an assessment, really get to know what's going on, then coming in with a plan, and then putting it into action. As far as access goes to Boca Chica Beach in particular, I do believe that it's very difficult now that Starbase has its own city now. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. I believe that it quite frankly should have been fought a little bit harder. I do believe that it was even the signing of the municipality, Starbase, I understand. I felt it was way too easy for them, and they restricted access. They made it difficult, and they can make it much more difficult as time goes on. I do believe in working with SpaceX. They are here. We need to make sure that they are really looking after the environment. I know that's a big issue as well. But access, I think we need to really go back and fight for access, fight to regain Boca Chica Beach.
Thank you. Judge Trevino, what action are you taking to allow citizens more freedom to access Boca Chica Beach? And will you be able to object to Elon Musk's plans?
Let me go back real quick. Access to Boca Chica is only restricted when there is a launch or the movement of the Starship from the production facility to the launch pad. Other than that, you can go to Boca Chica Beach. Now, it's unfortunate that the county has the authority, based on 2013 state legislation, the authority to open and close the road to the beach whenever there was going to be a launch. Remember that the original idea was going to be a launch facility for the Falcon 9 rocket. They moved the Starship project from California over here, and instead of it being 300 or 400 jobs, now we're at 4,000 plus, and they're in the process of moving to their headquarters. It's been a $4 billion investment, and we anticipate that only to increase. Access was so critical that last year in the session, Starbase, SpaceX moved and for legislation taking away the authority to close from Cameron County to Starbase. I objected profusely, did everything I possibly could. Matter of fact, my opponent just said we didn't do. I don't remember him saying at one time anything supporting our efforts to keep the county with the authority. So it's a bit disingenuous to come in and say, well, why didn't you? We were fighting it. I've upset SpaceX quite a bit because of that, but it is what it is. I thought that it was proper that authority remained with Cameron County and not with Starbase. With regards to the incorporation, there are laws with regards to how a community can incorporate. A petition is submitted, they follow the law. If everything is followed, you just heard the candidates for the 107, if everything is followed according to the law, my authority basically is to say yes, unless they don't follow everything. If they had not checked off every box and provided everything, then I would have been able to say, you're not ready or we're not going to call for this. But it doesn't get to be just what I want. You have to follow the law.
Thank you. Mr. Guerrero, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would. I've worked with SpaceX briefly through their proximity to the port project. And when this first started, when those launches were coming out, we had to close our ship down. And they would give us a window. They would give us a window, a 12-hour window at the beginning. And we had to keep putting pressure on it. And we had to tell them, okay, guys, you don't get to tell us to close the ship down for the entire day. You have to narrow that window, let us know what's going on, work in conjunction with them. And that's what I think has lacked throughout these years. We're putting pressure on them, making sure that they are up to the standards of the environment, and also let's look at the facts here. You can find other ways to make it to make Boca Chica Beach not accessible. If they can make it unpleasant enough, where people want to go there. I know that they now have their own police force in Sparkis. So there's a lot of different ways. Again, I think that we need to make sure, keep the pressure on them, and make sure that they are held accountable to Cameron County.
And what would you do as Cameron County Judge to ensure that?
Well, I would continue working with them, and I would again, I've had conversations with SpaceX. I'll give you an example. The Southport Connector Road, which is the first phase of the East Loop, where it took a few years, and then that's something that the Cameron County Regional Authority, Port Brownsville, and Cameron County, the state of Texas as well, they came to us, and when that bridge was being designed, they originally had said it was for $500,000, and they came one day and said, we need to fix it. We need to cross a £1 million month. And I said, that's fine. They said, Mr. Musk, if you want to talk to him, he's on the phone. I said, we don't need to talk. We need to make sure that that bridge, that road is intact the same way before we got here to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Trivia, would you like to respond?
The situation that Mr. Gavin just alluded to, the simple fact that Southport connector was built and constructed by Cameron County and our transportation on, you need to be able to listen and also be able to address situations. This is what I've been doing for the last 9.5 years. It's always a balancing test, and you have to figure out what is in the best interest. You referred a little while ago as to the valley and county always being referred to as among the poorest areas in the state and the country. That was something that always used to happen, and it always upset me. You don't see every article now about Cameron County or the Rio Grande Valley starting off the poorest region in the country. And that's because of the efforts of a lot of different people that made some of these projects realities, and also the whole thing.
Thank you. Our next audience question from an anonymous asker. We'll begin with Judge Trevino. What responsibility should Cameron County have in protecting immigrant families, civil rights, and ensure due process from unjust detention or profiling?
Well, you can see what a change in administration what happens when you have a change in administration with regards to the immigrant issue. I don't understand, back in 2015, when the current president was coming down the escalator and he said, Mexico was sending in its rapists, its criminals, its wars, its murderers, the worst people. That was how he started his campaign. So when people now are like, oh, I can't believe he's doing this, I'm like, well, who the heck will be listening to? Because it's all there. It's all there in black and white and video. We have done everything we can to respect the rights and the law with regards to asylum seekers, DACA, those individuals have every right to be here. Now, what's this, again, it's very disappointing because if this country was built by immigrants, they are the fiber and what makes this country so special and so important and so unique. You can come from anywhere else in the world to this country and become an American. And now the Republicans are making it sound like that is wrong. They don't even want to allow individuals that are born here to be able to say that they're American. So while I wish I could do much more as county judge, all I can continue to do, and you can count on me to continue to advocate and protect the interests of those immigrants, of those individuals, because they're human, they have civil rights, they used to have rights in this country, they seem to be taken away on a daily basis. We see what they're doing right now with regards to the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act. But let's do everything we can to understand, which is why voting is so critical and important, because elections have consequences. And if the wrong individual ends up in office, make sure that the individuals, especially in this room, in this county, make an informed decision as to who's going to be able to advocate and represent Cameron County the same way I have for the last 9.5 years, and hopefully for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett, the same question. What responsibility should Cameron County have in protecting immigrants' families, civil rights, and ensure due process from unjust detention or profiling?
I think we have to take responsibility. As South Texans, as Democrats, but the fact of the matter is that there is an immigration problem, and it goes beyond Democrats and Republicans. It's an American problem that we have. One of the things that I do believe, again, especially back in December when there was a MOU that was entered into by Commissioner's Court Judge Carrera, and that was a 287G. And what happened with that? Well, that gave the ability of MOU like Cameron County, and it gave the ability with ICE to use the facilities throughout Cameron County for detention. It's my understanding that it didn't have to be signed until December of this year. So my question is, why not fight some of these things that you feel unjust, some of these things are unjust, and fight them, be vocal, and really come out and represent the people. And really represent the people. Okay.
Sorry, I was motioning to Judge Trevino that he would get a response.
Okay.
Yes, no, Judge Trevino, did you sign a memorandum of understanding with us?
Yes, unfortunately, he just said he's not misinformed, he's uninformed. The 287G is a mandate by the federal government, and all it did, we picked the least obtrusive and abusive of the options that were available to us. If we did not sign an agreement with the federal government, they could withhold all monies. I don't know if you've seen it, but the president has a penchant for when he gets upset, he takes away communities' money, and that's not right. But with regards to this situation, it's wrong for him to try to say that we could have done more. We picked the least of the options, and all it did, the option that we selected was the sheriff would train 2 deputy sheriffs with regards to being able to ask the ICE questions, i.e., where are you from? Are you a resident? You have residency? Are you a citizen? Etc. Those are the questions that ICE would come in and ask, which they can come in and do regardless. They used to do that in the past, but this is now just formalized. So the 287G, unfortunately, is not what he's trying to represent, what it was, and we picked the least poison pill that we can, and this was also working in conjunction with our sheriff and our judge.
Mr. Guetta, would you have refused to sign a memorandum of understanding even if the federal government would threaten to withhold funds?
Well, like I said, this didn't have to be signed immediately. It could have been fought. But that brings us to another issue. And when we talk about humanity and talk about dignity of immigrants and people throughout the county, I don't know if you all saw this recently, but the Carrera County Jail was found to be in non-compliance with by the Texas Commission on Bail. And what's going on over there? They have 100 people sleeping on the floors. Some of them immigrants, some of them because of this 287G that we're talking about. So those are the things, and the judge was right. Elections have consequences and some actions. And by signing this, that is what happened. Now, what does that also do? That puts our jailers in direct harm's way. So for every 48 inmates, you need to have 1 jailer. Right now, we're at one for every 56. That means they're outnumbered. That means they're working overtime, and that's another thing that we can get into as far as the budget goes. But these people are putting a lot of overtime. We need to make sure that we take care of our deputies. We need to make sure that we take care of our jailers, and we need to make sure that we take care of our first responders.
Judge Trevino, about the jail issue, please. Has the jail been found in noncompliance?
Yes, and that occurs every once in a while, but it's not the way Mr. Guerra would like to present to you all. The fact of the matter is, just a few short years ago, our jail population was approximately 1,200 to 1,300, leaving us a vacancy of about 200 to 300 individuals. A few years ago, when the former sheriff who just endorsed Mr. Guerra for county judge took office, he did such a poor job of running the jail that we lost the federal inmates. The housing of the federal inmates was generating revenue for Cameron County between $2 and $3 million a year. It literally happened overnight. We had to address it immediately, and it caused a strife. The sheriff at that point didn't know what he was doing, but this is who he wants for change. So just keep that in mind as you consider your options. The other situation with regards to the jail is that the sheriff is in charge. But it's incumbent upon myself as county judge and the commissioner's court to work with him to try to provide the resources. We're in the process as a result of Senate Bill 9, this is what's creating the problem, not the immigrant issue. Senate Bill 9 has created a situation where judges sometimes are not allowed to provide bonds. And no bond means that individual, if they're arrested for a particular charge, has to stay in jail. They can't get out. Now what we're doing is we're reviewing and talking to all of the municipalities, all of the judges, all of the magistrates, making sure that they understand that many of the cases that they thought could not, that were not eligible for bonds, that they in fact are eligible. And that's how we're bringing those numbers down. We're trying to do this because the simple fact of the matter is that we're growing, and unfortunately a lot of situations are changing. But this is part of it. You have to address it. It's not anybody's fault per se. These things occur, but we're addressing it and we're making sure that we address it.
Thank you. One quick yes or no question for both of you, starting with Judge Trevino. Win or lose, would you support the Democratic candidate?
I've always supported the Democratic candidate.
Thank you. Mr. Guerra?
Is it a quick answer? Or?
Yeah, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's important not only to keep Democrats in office, I think it's also important to make sure that we come out and vote in November and elect James Talarico as senator. He sent re-election sent alongside this.
Oh yeah, just yes or no. Sorry. And now closing statements from both of you. Please, 1 minute. Please, just if you're an undecided voter at this point in the booth, Mr. Guerra, what is the one thing you should keep in mind?
I defer to the judge on this one. I got the votes for it last time, so
okay.
if you don't mind.
Judge, Mr. Trevino, the question is, as a closing statement, if you're an undecided voter going into the booth and looking at your name, what is the one thing they should keep in mind?
Look at my record, look at my history, look at what I've done, look at what I've done for this community. I'm not somebody who's just come out of the block around looking for an advantageous position. You know about my personal history. My parents put me to work when I was age 7. I continue to work to this day. I've been a lawyer for 36 years. My life, personal and professional, is an open book. My financial situation is an open book. I've been criticized because I was a lawyer. What's interesting is that I've never had any company lose its license to operate in the state of Texas. My opponent at the last forum and on his financial report said that he gets his income from 3 particular companies, 2 marketing and 1 construction. Well, the construction and one of the marketing had been forfeited for at least several years. He was involved in litigation several years ago with regards to a fuel situation where he was company Warrior Fuel was buying for a company from Mexico that had been noticed and named by the Mexican government as involved in the huachicol, which is the illegal fuel industry. In a situation like that, you need to look. The 2 out of the 3 companies that he says he has to make a living at aren't operational. They're not licensed. They're no longer operational with the state of Texas. So you're not supposed to be able to operate. The other company that is in existence, he opened it 3 months ago, right before the primary. I don't know what he does for a living. I've been a lawyer for 36 years, and I've served this county for 9.5 years, and prior to that, mayor and city commissioner of Pueblo. I've served on numerous boards, nonprofits, my church. I've been involved since the day I got back from Boston.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Guerra. It's good. If you're an undecided voter going into the booth and looking at your name, thinking about all the things that Judge Trevino just said, what should they keep in mind?
Well, I think people should keep in mind that it's time for change. I really believe that. I want to clarify something and talk about something quickly. I want to talk about salaries really quickly. Judge Trevino went into this office with a $70,243 salary. He has raised his own salary. He's voted on his own salary, and he's up to about $120,000. And he talks about transparency, and he comes and he wants to throw rocks at me. I am not a rich man, not even close to it. But what I can tell you, when we talk about transparency and open books, we talk about in Brownsville, he was the attorney for the Public Utilities Board. He made $1.3 million off the failed Canasta deal. And people paid every single day. They were paying extra rates because of this gentleman. Another thing, you want to talk about transparency. I've never taken $1 from special interest, and I've never taken $1 from a convicted cocaine dealer. This gentleman took $14,000. Asked him if he gave it back. He absolutely did not. But at the end of the day, I will tell you this. I've served you all honorably for the last 8 years at the Port of Brownsville, and I have gotten paid $0.00, and I've never done business at the Port of Brownsville because I wanted to go in and I wanted to make sure that every single decision that I made was with the Port's best interest. I'm going to do the same at Cameron County for you all, and I want to let you know that I will not do business with the county, nor will my business partners. I don't know if anybody knows this, but his former business partner and his current, they're both current business partners, became the biggest builders out at SpaceX. They did. And guess what? His business partner, on paper, controls the Cameron County Jail Commissary contract. So that's what needs to change. Special interest needs to go. I'm the man to bring that change.
Thank you. Judge Trevino, please. Response very quickly.
When you
Based on
lie,
your pause.
when you lie, you can say anything you want.
All right.
The facts are not what this man represents to be. He still hasn't told you what he does for a living. He doesn't tell you because he doesn't want you to know. He just said that he's never done business in the Port of Brownsville. That's interesting. I hope that that's true because that's not what I've heard.
Thank you. And one last rebuttal. Mr. Yada, and then
Ford Sunsets LLC. Mr. Eddie Medical Trevino owns that. He's bought properties over there by the older people at mall. Some companies by development. Mr. Trevino owns that. Okay? These are all real companies. He can suppose and he can say that I did this and I did that. The fact is that this gentleman does business in the county. He's profited. He's become a millionaire. He's become a millionaire.
thank you.
He's become a millionaire off of the people of Cameron County.
Thank you so much. Okay. No. Secretary, sir.
What you call it? Hey!